All right, today we're going to be in the budget projects notes packet, and we're going to be looking at pages 1 and 2, which has to deal with simple interest. So the first thing that we have to do is define a couple of terms so that we know what they mean in the formula. So looking up at the top, the first one is principal. And this is the initial amount invested or deposited. All right, next is interest rate. This is the portion of your initial amount. That you will get back. And then the last thing is interest. Or you'll get back as interest. All right, so interest is the amount of money that you earn back in addition to the principal, and then the initial rate or interest rate is just a portion of that principal that will be given back to you. All right, now we're going to talk about how it works. So we have a map here that talks about how it works. So to start with, you deposit an initial principal into a bank account. All right, so you decide how much initial money you want to put into a bank account, and you go to the bank and you do that. All right, then our arrows are pointing down to this skinny rectangle box. So the bank takes your money. And invest. All right, so you put it into a bank account, the bank then takes it and invests it in something. And then the bank, so they earn profit on your money. All right, once the bank takes it and invests it, they're trying to earn a little bit of profit, and then they get to decide how much interest, okay, you're actually going to make. So your percent interest is calculated. All right, then the bank isn't going to give you all the profit that they make in your initial investment because they need to make some money as well. So they take the rest of the profit and they reinvest it into something else. All right, so that's what the bank does once your interest is calculated. All right, but then once your interest is calculated, the interest is added to your principal in your account. So this is where you start making money. All right, and that's kind of how the interest process works. All right, then we're going to kind of explain that in simpler terms. So when you save money, in the bank, you get some interest back as a reward for keeping your money there. All right, now we're going to look at the formula. So I stands for our interest. P stands for our principal. R is our percentage rate. Okay, and under it, I want you to write as a decimal because we have to convert all those principals to decimals. Okay, and you do that by taking your percentage and dividing it by 100. And then T is for time. And then under it, it needs to be in years. I'm not sure where everything just went. No? Okay. I hope y'all got everything else because it just erased. So we have interest, principal, percentage rate, and remember you take it, divide it by 100, and then time in years. All right, so that's the formula. And then on the back, so on page 2, we're actually going to look at some examples. All right. So they have the formula there again, so I'm going to label it again. All right, so that's basically everything we just put on the bottom of page 1. I just rewrote it so that you'll be able to see it as we're working these problems. So we're going to look first at this example right here. So I deposited $350 into a savings account with a 3% interest. How much will be in my account after 2 years? All right, so here we're trying to find the amount of interest. So that's going to be our I. So we don't know our I. So next I need my P, which is my principal, and that's my initial amount. So she deposited an initial amount of $350. All right, and then that savings account had a 3% interest. So I need to convert 3% to a decimal. So I'm going to have 3 divided by 100, and that gives me 0.03. in parentheses. And then next is T, which is my time, which is 2 years. All right, so now you can use a calculator and you can type that whole thing in, okay, starting with 350. So you would do parentheses 350, parentheses 0.03, and parentheses 2. And you're going to press enter, and it's going to give you 21. All right, so that's how much interest she made, but the question asks how much will be in the account after 2 years. So we have to take our initial amount of 350 and add our interest, which is going to be 371. So after 2 years, her savings account will now have a value of $371. All right, let's look at the next question. I plan to put $500 per quarter into an account with a 6% interest. How much interest will I earn in the first quarter? All right, so a quarter of a year, okay, that would be 0.25. All right, so again, we're trying to find our I. So our initial amount that we put in there is $500. It has a 6% interest, so I do 6 divided by 100. That gives me 0.06. And then time is in years, so a quarter of a year I just gave you was 0.25. So now I can type all of this into my calculator. Which would be $7.50. So that's how much they will earn after the first quarter. All right, and then the last question. I'm putting all $282.50 I earned from my job into a bank account. What interest rate would get me $300 by the end of the year? All right, so they want $300 in their account at the end of the year. So remember, the total in the account is your principal plus your interest. So we need to find just the interest, which is our I. So to find my I value, I'm going to do 300 minus 282.5. And that's going to give me $17.50. All right, P is our initial amount, so that's 282.50. R is our interest rate, which is what we're trying to find, so we don't know what that is. And then time by the end of the year, so that's just 1 year. So now I'm going to line it up. So I have $17.50 equals my principal times R times 1. Now I just have to solve for R. So to solve for R, I need to move that 282.5 to the other side, so I'm going to divide. So I'm left with R equals, when I divide that, I get 0.0619. But we want it as a percentage, not a decimal. So I'm going to take that decimal, multiply it by 100, which if I round gives me 6.2%. So that's what interest rate they will have to have. All right, and that concludes the notes for simple interest.